Hi friends, this is Kate back for the March Betsy Tacy video. So in case you aren't aware, this year myself and Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading and Katie from Life Between Words are hosting a year-long read-along of Maud Hart Lovelace's Deep Valley books. So the majority of the year we'll be reading the Betsy Tacy books, and then we'll be reading several standalone books that take place in the same town as the Betsy Tacy series, the town of Deep Valley. So I'm really pleased if you're joining us, and it's just a wonderful series that is often forgotten. It's only been out of print once in the time since it came out originally, and the majority of the time it has been in print. So I'm not sure quite why it's been so forgotten, but I just don't hear it mentioned nearly as often as Anne of Green Gables or Little Women, series for that age. So I am really pleased to be rereading these. But today is, I just had started Kelly's video before I was filming, and she was saying she didn't necessarily feel like she had the most energy to do that video. And I feel the same way. I am at some point, when I can work up the energy to do it, going to do a video about chronic illness and booktube. So I don't know. I mentioned it like in an October video that I just have been struggling with chronic illness and have taken an unexpected break from booktube. So hopefully, things will be improving, but I do want to do a video about kind of my experience as a reader and a booktuber with chronic illness. And in addition to that, this weekend has been pretty tiring because first, baby Arthur, although he's less of a baby now, he's 14 months, but he got hand, foot, and mouth, which is a dreadful, dreadful virus, and his entire body basically became covered with blisters, and he was just very unhappy. Or he got it like midweek, and then Peter got it. What's weird is Peter doesn't have that many blisters, but he has really incredibly sore feet. His feet hurt so much that he's crying, like they really hurt. And then my husband got it, which is very rare for adults to get it. And I think I have an immunity because Peter has had this before and I didn't get it, and I'm not showing any signs of having that. So yeah, it's been quite the weekend. So I'm filming this the day of and uploading it the day of. I'm hoping I can do this all in one take and not edit it. So I do apologize if maybe I'm not as quick on my feet with this video. But yes, so I'm going to be talking about Heaven to Betsy, which this is the first month that we only read one book because now we are in the high school years and the books are longer, and the reading level goes up as the age of Betsy and Tacy and Tib go up. Sadly, Tib has moved back to Milwaukee, and so she's not in this book, although there is talk of Tib and they are keeping in touch with letters, so that she's definitely still a part of their lives. She's just not necessarily a huge part of this book, Heaven to Betsy. Also, I am very excited that the illustrations are now the ones that I love so much. Vera Neville is the name of the illustrator. There's one of them. And then here, this is the opening chapter. Yes, so I'm so excited to talk about this though, even if I might not have the most energy. So yes, this is Betsy's freshman year of high school. And one thing that I think makes this a really wonderful transition is that there are so many more characters to love in this. My philosophy with characters in books is kind of the more the merrier, as long as there aren't too many where it's hard to keep people straight. But especially in this, it's just so fun to have all of these different personalities come into play. There's different aspects of the story, different traditions and things which start or continue, and that's, to me, makes this such a comforting series, is just the reassurance kind of that these traditions have. One that happens is Sunday night lunches, and let's see if I can find picture 120. So Mr. Ray, who is quite the personality, I just love him so much, and he's so good humored, and he doesn't take himself too seriously. And in the very beginning of the book, while Betsy is visiting friends, her family moves to a house downtown, or like a lot closer to downtown. And she's very conflicted about it because she loves being right across the street from the hill and obviously from Tacy's house. But it's very interesting to see. It's such a neat window into the time period. They have indoor plumbing, which is a really big deal. So they don't have to heat up water for a hot bath. It's just, they can put it right into the bathtub. And I can't remember all of the other amenities, but there are several things that Mr. and Mrs. Ray mentioned that they're very excited about. And somehow in this new house, which is a lot more spacious, and Betsy has her own room, they start the Sunday night lunch tradition. And so Mr. Ray just makes these epically delicious sandwiches with just kind of a hodgepodge of ingredients, and he takes his Sunday night lunch duty very seriously, and just makes it such a thing. So then as Betsy's making friends at school and hanging out with boys for the first time, that's something that wasn't really much of a part of her life before, but now she's to the age where they do that. Sometimes the boys are invited over for Sunday night lunch, and her sister Julia's friends are invited, and her younger sister Margaret's friends, and Mr. and Mrs. Ray's friends. So it's really neat. It's just this really neat time of hospitality for Betsy's family, just to welcome the community into their home. Another addition that I adore about this one is Anna. Anna is the maid to the family, and she has her own little room up at the tippy top of the house, but she just has such a personality. She calls Betsy and the other girls Lovey, and whenever she thinks a guy is handsome, she calls him puny, which is not how most people use the term, but it's like her own unique thing that she does. And you just love her for it. So she's just a really kind of a nice light in the house. And when Betsy's adjusting to living in this new house and feels somewhat homesick, she really is excited that Anna's living with them, and Anna just helps make everything feel homey. She makes a dessert called a floating island, which is something that I want to try to make. And I think it's like you bake egg whites and you make a really sweet sauce to go under it. So I want to make a floating island. I had never heard of that before. And another thing that you hear about in this, that Mr. Ray, the way he makes his coffee, and I think it's a Swedish thing. I think it's Swedish. Anyhow, he makes coffee by cracking an egg and putting an egg with the shell and everything over the coffee grounds and then running it through. And it's supposed to make a really like smooth, almost sweet tasting coffee. So I'm very curious about this. And I looked it up online, and there's lots of different methods and ways you can make it. So I want to try that. Then another thing that's neat is that there are more girls that Betsy becomes friends with. And Tacy, of course, is one of the girls who's included, in the group with the new friends. What's really special about Betsy and Tacy's relationship is there's no jealousy ever. Betsy at first, is friends with these other girls, Carney and Bonnie, and Tacy is just so assured in her friendship with Betsy that there's no jealousy, but eventually she's incorporated into their group. Another thing that let me find the picture. So another aspect of these books that I really like is that the teenagers in it really know how to have fun. Obviously, this is many years before smartphones, so their attention spans are probably a lot better. But just how to have like good, clean, old-fashioned fun, and it's very fun. One thing is that they sing for fun. I don't think that's done nearly as much now. They dance, and they do dances with steps, that requires some learning and training. And I think that's the dancing that I've always liked more. I've gone to contra dances and I've done swing dancing, and I've always kind of preferred that kind of dancing more. And then I like this. They have a Halloween party, and so they're all supposed to dress as ghosts and come there anonymously, and then they take them off and they have fun. But they do apple bobbing and silly games with like who their future husband will be. They do it with apple peels, like what the initials will be. So like silly fun. They're not too cool to just be enthusiastic about things like that. Another interesting aspect is that Betsy and Tacy grow up Baptist. Mr. Ray is Baptist. And Kelly was telling me that this Heaven to Betsy, the specific book Heaven to Betsy in the series, I think was banned for a little while because it was so scandalous of them changing religions, which I would say it was more they changed denominations because they're both part of the Christian religion. Episcopalian and Baptist. So it starts basically that Julia is part of the choir in the Episcopal Church. And then as she sees this really liturgical side of worship and this just the order that's there and kind of the beauty, and I would say the romance of it. I feel like it's, and I mean with the capital R, it's just this, tradition that's been around for so long, I think can kind of captivates Betsy. And so Betsy eventually starts going to the choir, and then they're just very nervous to tell their father, and it leads to a really great discussion. And I can't remember the exact quote, but they're saying, well, what will people think? We feel really bad, to their dad. And he says, oh, well, you shouldn't base what you do off what people think. You should just base it off, your own convictions. So it's interesting that Betsy has these different aspects of her life, her more kind of frivolous socializing, hanging out with friends, and they do things like a winter bonfire. That's another thing that's really fun. But then her time at home with her family, she's really good at telling stories. And since she wants to be a writer, I think that's a good thing. And so sometimes when it's just she and her younger sister, Margaret, home with Anna, the maid, she'll tell them stories and entertain them, which I think is really special. And then, she has her writing aspirations, and there's some development of that in this one. She has to decide, is that really what I want? Is it really a priority for me? Because you see other girls in the story who their priority is to be a wonderful homemaker, and it's not portrayed negatively or judgmentally. That's just the path that they want to take, which as a stay-at-home mom, I sympathize with. And but Betsy, that's she wants that, and to be a writer. So I think it's really neat. You see kind of how a 14-year-old would handle that situation when it's hard to think long-term when you're 14, but she really has to kind of come to terms with that. If she's going to be a writer, she needs to make a priority of it, and, practice makes perfect. I think that's the majority of what I wanted to say, actually. We are introduced to Joe Willard, and I think he's in the title of a book later in the series that he's going to be significant. And it's very interesting to meet him in this one because he's not one of the main guys in the book. So you're kind of longing to get to know more about him. So I'm really looking forward to reading the next book in the series and hopefully getting to know more about Joe, getting reacquainted. So please join Kelly and I and Katie. So Kelly and I have been putting videos up each month, and then Katie is more active on Instagram. So she's Life Between Words on Instagram as well as YouTube. So you could see maybe some more posts there. And in the month of April, we will be moving on to Betsy in Spite of Herself. I am very much looking forward to continuing on with this series. It's been so lovely to discuss the previous 4 books with all of you, and I am really looking forward to talking about this in the comments with you, and I will be back for another video. I don't know when, but I'm still here. I'm watching BookTube, enjoying it, and I will talk to you guys soon.